Today we're going to go over to World of Warships PC on the Two Brothers map to play the Tier 10 German heavy cruiser Hindenburg, a ship that doesn't exist yet in World of Warships Legends. And as you know, I'm a community contributor for World of Warships Legends. That's the game I primarily play and primarily cover. But from time to time, we'll jump over here onto World of Warships PC to see what we are missing on its console cousin. Hindenburg is one such ship that we are currently missing. But a lot of people want it to come to World of Warships Legends, and after playing this match, I can totally see why. This was, in fact, my very first game in the Hindenburg. It's not a ship that I prioritized acquiring. I only got it sometime last week, or not even last week, actually. I got it over the Christmas season, just in order to get the bonus off of it. Every year in World of Warships, they give you a bonus for a Tier 10 win or getting 300 XP on a Tier 10. You can then redeem those bonuses for Santa containers. And so that's really the only reason I got the Hindenburg and haven't played it since then. But after this battle, I sort of regretted my lack of playing it because this battle is going to work out very, very well for us. You might have seen the score in the thumbnail. Sorry for the spoiler there, I suppose. But for the benefit of those of you who pretty much exclusively play Legends and don't know too much about the Hindenburg, I'll give you the major highlights here. We've got 12 203mm guns. The high explosive on these guns penetrates 51 millimeters of armor. Quite significant because that is going to be enough to penetrate the upper belt armor, the deck, superstructure, bow and stern of the majority of cruisers and battleships that we're likely to face. So we can deal good, consistent damage at will and start fires from time to time, although I don't think the fire chance on this thing is necessarily the best. The AP is pretty good too, like a lot of German AP. I think it's got a decent alpha strike, but it doesn't have the best penetration in the world, and there are no improved pen angles. In this battle, we're exclusively going to use the guns. There's never going to be an opportunity to get torpedoes on target, although the Hindenburg does have those. They range out to 6 kilometers. I believe there are 2 launchers on either side of the ship. Can't remember if they are quintuple or triple launchers, though. I'm going to say they're probably triple launchers, and it's 6 that you get off each side of the ship. That sounds like German numbers to me. Anyway, as this battle starts to begin, we've pushed from the center spawn on the Two Brothers map to the Delta Cap. We're not going to try to go up the middle because, of course, we are not Flambass. Somebody is going to try to go up the middle, but it's going to be somebody on the red team, and I don't think it's going to work out too well for them. Instead, we're going to open up fire on this Montana and angle away from him. The Hindenburg does have 30mm side plating, which can be angled against the Montana's 16-inch guns. The Montana will overmatch the bow and the stern if he chooses to shoot at us, but looks like he's got potentially bigger problems with those deep water torpedoes coming right at his face, courtesy, I think, of the friendly Harbin, who's also farming him with the main battery guns there. And I don't think me and the Harbin are the only ones shooting at the Montana. He seems to be attracting fire from pretty much all the friendly ships that are on this flank. He's just overextended a little bit too much, if you can believe it. He's only about a kilometer away from that cap circle, only a couple minutes into the match, and as you can see, he's secured himself a ticket for a quick trip back to port. The only question is, who is going to punch the hole in that ticket, so to speak? Well, with the Hindenburg's excellent HE pen, albeit somewhat anemic HE shell penetration damage, we are able to take out the Montana for the first blood medal. Quite nice. And we've acquired 41,000 damage doing so. Not in especially insane numbers or anything, but a decent indication to the consistent damage output of the Hindenburg, and we'll see that more as the battle develops. But now that Montana has been dispatched, we can maybe push in a little bit further. This is somewhat unusual matchmaking too. If you look at the team lineup at the top, we've got CVs in the match. They're tier 8 CVs, thankfully, and I don't think the enemy Shokaku is going to harass us too much as this battle goes on. He is going to spot us a little bit, but nobody can really shoot at us, at least not right at this moment. There's also submarines, one on each team. We'll end up meeting the enemy submarine a little bit later in kind of a funny way. But the lack of destroyers means that we pretty much exclusively have to rely on the spotting provided by the friendly CV. Otherwise, we've got to push in and spot with our face, which is something I generally like to avoid while playing cruisers, even ones with decent armor like the Hindenburg. You don't really want to be the first one in there against multiple ships, I don't think, and have all of those ships shooting at you at the same time. You saw what happened to the Montana when he was the one pushing in furthest forward. It's not going to work out very well for a cruiser. We don't even have anywhere near as much armor. But we are going to push into this capture circle because somebody needs to take it. On the other side of the map, I think we've got the vast majority of the friendly team, aside from the part of it that's waiting in the spawn cap to deal with the Roma that I think has just reached the end of the channel and is going to be headed back to port very quickly. Let's just say that. We've got an enemy Hindenburg and an Ibuki over there to the right of the capture circle, sort of hiding behind that island. If they were not there, I'd be much more comfortable with pushing into the cap and starting to take it. But since they are there, and since the Conqueror's there, I think we can approach things with a little bit more caution. There's no rush, of course. There's still about 13 minutes left to go in this battle, so plenty of time. Enemy CV vectoring in planes. Looks like we're shooting a few down, but I think those might have been the fighter plane squadron that he deployed. Those are, of course, useless anyway, aside from spotting, so it doesn't really matter if we shoot him down. There's the Ibuki, just sort of hanging out there, sitting still in the water. We can't seem to lob these shells over the island, which is why we're pushing in a little bit more. Conqueror has decided that pushing into this area of the map is not a great idea. He's going to kite away, which is fine with me. He's probably going to be shooting high explosive too, which, you know, that might not be the biggest problem for us. Although if he gets good RNG, then that high explosive still could hurt. So I don't know that we want to attract his attention too much. But what we do want to do is switch to armor piercing while he's broadside like that, because we can get nice healthy little chunks out of his HP. I think that was 6k on the initial salvo, but of course the AP works a lot better against broadside cruisers. Just ask the Ibuki there when he took, what was that, 2 citadels? And, you know, the reload here is about 8 seconds, so he's got not enough time to turn. He goes down for our second kill of the game, another citadel there. Why do you imagine he pulled out in front of us and exposed broadside like that? Well, we're going to activate the sonar. Not that we need it. We already know the torpedoes are coming. This is something that occurs in PC and in World of Warships Legends all the time. IJN cruiser players thinking that the torpedoes are the primary armament, despite the fact that they have terrible firing angles and require you to give broadside. The Ibuki goes down as many IJN cruisers before him have gone down, and he even calls me out in the chat for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know what he was expecting when he did that, other than a quick trip back to port. Anyway, now that he's dispatched and the Conqueror is retreating, it's only the Hindenburg that's anywhere near us. And if we push ever so slightly into this capture circle and maybe silence the guns for a moment, we can probably take the cap without being reset, unless the enemy CV wants to send his planes back here. But taking this cap is something we should be thinking about right now, I would say, especially given the enemy team has secured the alpha cap on the other side. And I think for the majority of this battle, the friendly CV has been operating on this side of the map with his planes, so the team on the other side of the map has no spotting. Probably why the enemy was able to take the cap. And of course, that is going to mean they will be able to overtake us on points if we don't do something about the cap situation. Speaking of which, take a look at the top of the screen at the score there. You see how it says the red team has 445 and we have 385? That's reversed. There's a bug in the replay system on World of Warships where it switches the scores of each team. So that number in red at the top, that's actually our score. And the number in green is the red team score. A little bit confusing, but we've sunk 3 ships, 2 battleships, a cruiser. Enemy team has sunk 1 battleship, 1 cruiser. So of course we're ahead on points right now, if only for the moment. We'll be able to sort of even things up here if we secure this cap. Then we'll be acquiring points every tick from the Charlie and Delta caps, and the Reds will be acquiring points every tick from the Alpha and Bravo caps. So it'll be an even income of points, and that's what we want, unless we can take some more capture circles. Hindenburg goes down, and that leaves just, I think, Vermont and Conqueror on this flank, plus the enemy CV, who has pushed up into the Bravo cap and is spotted by the friendly battleship that decided he was going to follow in the Roma's footsteps and go up the channel after dispatching the Roma. The CV is going to go down early, which you would think would give the friendly team here a great advantage in winning the battle. But it's actually going to end up being quite close, despite the fact that we've got a surviving friendly CV who I don't think at any point is going to be in true danger of sinking. Vermont out there is a bit of a scary opponent to face. That salvo that went through our bow a little bit earlier and chunked us for a ton of HP, that was Vermont, and it's 18-inch guns, 457 millimeters. They can overmatch our side armor, and so I don't think we want to be taking too many salvos from the Vermont. But of course, we've got some teammates up here who are going to be harassing the Vermont, and he's got such a long reload that he's got to be quite selective about who he shoots. He's also a very slow, very thick ship, so he's an attractive target for this HE, which should be able to penetrate his hull everywhere, because I believe he's coated in 38 millimeter armor pretty much everywhere. Side armor, deck armor, all of that. And a lot of heavy cruisers I don't think would be able to penetrate that 38 millimeter plating, but with the Hindenburg being German, it of course can. We're going to try to focus on the Vermont a little bit as he's out there. You can see he's got deep water torpedoes coming his way. He's taking a lot of HE spam from the Harbin, some shots from other people on the flank. And if we focus him all together like this, he'll melt pretty quickly. I love Vermont, by the way. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a fantastic ship, or at least it has fantastic guns. Guns that I respect tremendously and don't want to get hit by. But it is slow, and it is a little bit of a damage pinata in situations like this. We'll switch over to the AP since the Vermont is giving us a healthy amount of broadside, and we'll get a healthy amount of AP penetration damage on that broadside. See that? That was about 8,000 damage right there. A couple of salvos like that in a row, and the Vermont is really going to be hurting. Not that he isn't already. He DCPs the fires. He's going to start turning in to angle a little bit. And we'll probably start to see the AP shell damage fall off a little bit here. Yeah, a lot of overpens there into the superstructure. 1 pen, 2 ricochets. Probably better to switch back to the consistency of the HE when the Vermont is pushing in like that. We notice, though, that there's a Kronstadt in the spawn cap of the red team who's giving broadside to our position. So we want to finish off the Vermont and switch to the armor piercing to try to take advantage of that broadside. That last salvo of HE there on the Vermont lights the fire. I was just sort of hoping it would, and it did. And that is going to spell the demise of the Vermont. Unfortunately, we don't get the kill, which, well, you'll see why that's unfortunate as the situation develops here. I think we missed the Kronstadt. That's okay, but now I think it's time to start thinking about what do we do for sort of the last 6 or so minutes of this battle, or 8 minutes. I can't actually tell what the clock says. The screen that I'm looking at to record this commentary is a little bit too small. Anyway, we know that the Kronstadt and the Conqueror are essentially the only enemy ships on this part of the map. The rest of the ships are over in the Alpha Cap area, and they are probably going to be pushing from the Alpha Cap area into the Charlie Cap. That could be a problem for us because the point situation is very close. The enemy team is actually ahead of us on points right now, 607 to 585. Not, insurmountably far ahead, and this is obviously anybody's game, depending on who starts to sink quickest. But I think the blue team is going to start sinking pretty soon, and ultimately, with the Conqueror and the Kronstadt out here on this part of the map, you see both of them are kiting away. They're going further away from any objective of any importance, but their presence there is probably going to prevent us from getting into the cap over there and flipping it. So I think a better move for us to make would be to turn back and head toward our spawn. There's a number of red ships that are going to be pushing into that cap, and their only opposition is one battleship inside of the cap, who I think is on pretty low health, and then an Azuma somewhere near the map border in the spawn area who's sort of kiting away. I doubt those two are going to be enough to stop the enemy push into that cap, and when the enemy does inevitably push into that cap, they're probably going to flip it and then secure 3 capture circles. A major problem. They'll be gaining points at a much faster rate than us, and then the only way we'll have to win after a few minutes is by sinking every ship on the red team. Not great prospects. I think we want to win on points and on caps rather than on kills in these domination mode battles on World of Warships. So we'll take a couple last parting shots at the Kronstadt, Conqueror, whatever, but then I think it's time to turn around and head back towards spawn. One of the ships that was pushing into the cap is now dispatched. I believe it was the Tier 9 Pan-American battleship Los Andes, which is not something I want to be fighting, to be honest with you, because that ship seems massively overpowered. On the other hand, now that he's gone, we've only got a Suzuya and an Puerto Rico. I almost said Alaska, but it's a Puerto Rico. Both of them, if you take a look at their positions on the map, appear to be pursuing the kiting Azuma. And if they continue on that course and continue pursuing the kiting Azuma, they're going to be broadside to me as I head back this way. So I'm switching to the AP in anticipation of being able to wreck some cruiser broadsides. It's pretty crucial that we're able to accomplish that, by the way, because the enemy team does have 5 ships, and so do we. This is still anybody's game. If we get into position correctly here, we might be able to turn the tide. Suzuya, interesting ship, honestly. I don't think it has existed in World of Warships for too long. Seems like a new addition, because I've never seen it before this battle. I think it might be the same Suzuya that we have on Legends. Certainly looks like a Mogami hull, and it certainly eats citadels like a Mogami hull. There goes the Suzuya for our 3rd kill of the game. 2 citadels, even the Confederate medal. Nice to see. If only we had Gunther Lutyens on this ship, I think we'd be getting some bonuses to the reload time and having even better DPM. In fact, we would have better DPM if I had a commander on this at a higher level than 10 points. I don't even have the adrenaline rush skill, which is a little bit unfortunate, considering we're down to about half HP now. We'd have even better DPM than we currently do. Puerto Rico was also broadside to us. He's angling up a little bit, though, so we're going to switch to the HE. And in retrospect, I really regret switching to the HE here. Wish I would have kept the AP chambered. You'll see as we take this last salvo here against the Puerto Rico, the HE is still, as I said earlier, a little bit anemic, so even though it will pen and deal damage, it's going to take more than 1 shot to take out the Puerto Rico. More than 2 shots, even. We don't get the kill. That honor goes to our teammates, and the friendly sub decides or the enemy sub, rather, decides he wants to present himself to us on a silver platter, which I'm not going to argue with. Had no idea the guy was there until he appeared, but, well, he's not there anymore. He's headed back to port, and that is our 4th kill of the game. If only we had shot AP at the Puerto Rico, in the final shot there, we would have had 5 kills and a Kraken. But as it stands, we're 1 short, and I don't think there's enough time left in this match to acquire a 5th kill. The Conqueror has, to be fair, circumnavigated the Two Brothers Islands, and he is going to appear right now in that Alpha Cap, so we could shoot at him, to be sure. And Kronstadt may be broadside at the other end of that channel, but I don't think we're going to have a clear shot on him. So, no possibility of getting a Kraken, unfortunately. A slight possibility to farm a little bit more damage, though, and that's what we're going to do. Maybe it's a little bit reckless, but I think even if the Conqueror were to sink us, we would still probably be winning here. But he's not going to sink us because he's a Conqueror. He's going to shoot HE at us, which, to be fair, that could do a lot of damage if it hits, but I don't think anybody would ever accuse the Conqueror of having pinpoint laser accurate guns. So I don't think we've got too much to worry about with only 7 seconds left. Just farm a little bit more damage, get the high caliber metal, and call this first battle in the Hindenburg a wrap with a glorious victory. This, as I said in the beginning of the game, must be one of the best results I've gotten for a first battle in any ship on either World of Warships or World of Warships Legends. Almost 240,000 damage, 2,900 base XP. Hindenburg is a very capable ship. I think it's a pretty old design, but obviously it's got some carry potential in it, and it's pretty fun to play. The damage output just feels really nice and comfortable. So, Legends devs, if you're listening to this video, can we get the Hindenburg added to the game ASAP, please? I think I'm going to join the list of people who want to see it added after having played this match. Hope you enjoyed the video. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.